Tonight's webinar is about installing EcoGuard as a post-mitigation active alert monitoring program. And I am proud to be here with Daryl Festa of Festa Radon Technologies, who's going to help me with tonight's presentation by providing some expertise and viewpoint from his role as a former mitigator and a fan manufacturer and supply representative. So Daryl, thanks for allowing us to work with you on this webinar series. And take a second and introduce yourself if any of you don't know Daryl.
Yep, it's my pleasure to be here again. We are a international manufacturer and distributor of a comprehensive line of radon fans and accessories. I started my life in radon in 1996 as a radon mitigation professional, and so I did what these folks do every day and learned a lot and enjoyed that part of my life. In 1998, I partnered with a European company to become a distributor of a line of radon fans. And over a decade, I built a distribution business while running a radon mitigation business. And in 2008, I bought the manufacturing end of that business from the company in England and moved manufacturing here across the ocean. And I've been doing that for the past 15 years. And so I get the pleasure of talking to radon professionals every day and getting to participate in helping them fix some of their difficult and challenging systems. And now I get to talk about products that I think add a lot of value to their businesses. So I'm excited to be here today.
Thanks, Daryl. It's a pleasure to have your group of customers and loyal followers to join us. So we are appreciative of the opportunity to share what's going on at Ecosense. So let's get rolling here. So I'm going to start off with just a quick definition that most of you already know, and that's in the soil gas mitigation standard. There's a definition or a term that they define it, and that's operation, maintenance, and monitoring plan. And they define that as a document that includes information on the operation and maintenance of the installed system and guidance for monitoring the effectiveness of the system in the future. So that's what we're talking about tonight in a nutshell, is that right there. And then they also have a requirement that in the standard, I say requirement, it's a requirement in some states, it's the standard nonetheless. And it's a little controversial with some folks, and I would say for good reasons, because typically this active notification requirement has involved a pressure sensor. And I know that the pressure sensors that were originally marketed had problems, and a lot of people complained about them. I used to hear about it a lot when I was still at Arston NRPP. So I'm aware of that, but just wanted to remind you that this particular part of the standard discusses a monitoring mechanism that actively alerts the occupants in the event of fan or mechanical failure. And down there at the bottom, the one that means the most to me is notification by telemetric means, such as by email or electronic communication, because I think most of us despise audible alarms. We all have probably experienced one time or another where the smoke alarm went off when we're cooking, and the simplest thing to do was to take the battery out, and then we forget to put it back in, right? So I think telemetric means, as they describe it in the standard, is a better way to go if you're going to do this. So as we talk about devices that are, that could be used for this, I just want to make a distinction that not everybody's aware of, and that has to do with, the type of device that you would install for a consumer. One of them is actually an electronic integrating device, and the other one is an actual continuous monitor. And the distinction has to do with the sensor counting efficiency, sometimes referred to as sensitivity. So an electronic integrating device doesn't gather enough counts in a single hour to be able to report a 1 hour reading like your professional monitor. So what it does instead is it provides a rolling 24-hour average. So any data that it collects, any counts that it collects during the current hour are added to those counts that were collected for the previous 23, and then it reports the average for that 24-hour period. Whereas a continuous monitor is going to record individual 1-hour readings as well as the average for, say, the day, the week, the month, and the year. So to be clear here, the only one of these devices, or the only manufacturer that provides a continuous radon monitor for what has been referred to in the past as consumer devices is Ecosense. The other devices are actually EIDs, and what I really just want to accomplish in this presentation is to have you see the difference, not necessarily to make a claim one way or the other. I think when you see the difference, you can make up your mind about what you prefer. So the news that I'm really proud to announce is we had people for some time tell us at Ecosense that, wow, wouldn't it be good if you could just go ahead and get your EcoCube device approved. And we didn't do that, obviously, to begin with, because it's cheaper to just buy another one than it would be to recalibrate it. And they were targeting consumers, homeowners, and to put that kind of burden to have them calibrated all the time on a homeowner is not something that they would be too keen on. But we went ahead and got 2 devices recently approved that are based on the EcoCube technology. And the one we're talking about is the one we refer to as EcoGuard for doing long-term monitoring. And I'm just going to go ahead and assert that this kind of capability is a better fan pressure alert, if you're going to have one, than a pressure sensor. And I'm curious to hear what Daryl has to say about that as well. So I'll pause here.
So I love this idea, right? It's far more valuable, right? If you're going to have an active device monitoring a system performance, to actually be measuring what we're solving, right? So my argument has been that a fan cannot have pressure, or a fan can have pressure and be functioning, but still have elevated radon, right? And I believe that this standard, or this requirement, is modeled a lot after vapor intrusion and VOCs like methane and things like that. And we actively monitor those types of issues. The active monitor measures what we're fixing. It measures methane or CO or CO2. And so I think logic says, if we're going to invest in an active alarm, whether you're doing it because your state requires it, or you're doing it because you're adding value to your client, and you're choosing to do that, to offer them the ability to constantly monitor the radon levels in their home to ensure the family's safety, that's clearly going to state to them that there's a value in that. Monitoring the pressure of the radon fan, I'm not sure many are going to see any added value to them or their family for that, because it doesn't tell anything about their safety or if their system's functioning properly as far as reducing radon levels. And so to me, this has been the logical solution all along. And that's why I love that you've gotten it approved and that you introduced this concept or this idea, because I think it was necessary and the logical step for us as an industry.
Well, yeah, what makes this possible is the fact that the sensor inventor that developed the sensors that we're using at Ecosense, our sensors, to be able to come up with one that is so sensitive, has such a high counting efficiency for such an affordable price, and that's what makes this an alternative that we just didn't have a few years ago. So I too am excited about the possibility of what this brings us. So I'm going to take just a minute and kind of show you some examples. And I know Daryl's seen these kind of charts, for years, but this is just a house in close to where I live. In fact, it's one of my daughter's houses, and the pre-mitigation test results for 5.1 and a system was installed, and we put in an EcoGuard monitor and began to monitor it between the end of August and the end of September this past year. And you can see over on the left where we were wanting to see, well, just how well would it track if the system were to shut down. So you can see here on 9/4, the system was shut off, and it didn't take long at all for the radon to shoot right up to almost 5 picocuries per liter. And of course, it came down and up and down and up and down and up. But then it stayed off for 12 days. The 48-hour average was 4.2 picocuries per liter. The point I'm making here is again, you can see as soon as it was turned back on, it comes all the way back down and stays below 2. And so there was nothing special that Mitchell Stein, the mitigator, did on this job. It was a pretty typical installation. It's controlling the radon really well for that time period. And then again, as part of our little experiment, shut off the fan. And once again, it climbs up, dropped a little bit, and you can see it drops up for another 48-hour period, well above 4. So this is the kind of data that you'd be able to see if you're actually monitoring a house. This is a house in Tennessee, and the Knoxville area. And this particular house tested almost 9 picocuries per liter originally. You can see the data there for from the 6th to the 13th. It's for the most part less than 2 picocuries per liter. The system was shut off here on the 10th, and it was 1.7 at the time. And you can see it started up. It did fall down again. I don't know how well they were maintaining closed house conditions during that time, but then you can see it popped up again. As soon as it was turned on, it dropped back down. So the point I'm making is that that you can see the response. Now, would this be enough to send an alert? Perhaps not. It came up and went back down. But to be able to have the data to look at in the event it did stay up there for a good period of time is the important part. This is the same house that's showing a graph that began when the system was installed. So this particular mitigator has been installing these even before we got them approved as part of his mitigation systems. So he incorporates the unit price for the device into a system price, sells them on how he's going to stand behind his work and monitor it after that. And you can see that as soon as it was installed, they were able to watch, as he did, the radon come down, and all that time it averaged 1.7 picocuries per liter. The little part here where it started up on the end was about where we the 10th there was about where we started the experiment where the system was turned off. And this was the one that I wanted to show you, that kind of just explains the difference between an EID and a continuous monitor. So this was one of my other daughter's houses. That's not too far from me at all. It's almost around the corner. And the original results there were, I think, around 5.5, somewhere in there as well. They weren't too elevated, but you can see that the radon system that was installed is keeping the radon concentration very low until the system fan was turned off. Now, to show you the difference, the orange graph is an Ecosense monitor. The blue graph is an AirThings wave. So you can see, because the AirThings wave is giving you that rolling 24-hour average, it's averaging away the peaks and valleys that you see with a real CRM. So it also lags behind. You can see there was quite a bit of lag time between when the CRM showed that it had reached 4 and continued to rise before the air things actually showed an average of 4, because it's averaging all that together, and then it's it came up, but it never showed the kind of data that could be very helpful in trying to figure out what's going on too, if you're the mitigator. So I wanted to explain the difference, where you understand why we're so proud of our sensor and the ability of it to really gather data that is useful. Daryl?
Yeah, I think the point that you just made is a really good one. You know, when you're troubleshooting, or when you get a notification that there's elevated levels, to have specific enough data that maybe ties it to a weather event, right? Or maybe there was a power outage in the area, or you know, we've discovered that certain people, when they have a wood burner that they buy and start using, can have profound impacts on radon levels. And so not struggling with just a number where you can look at trends, it'll help you identify that and solve problems a lot faster. And so I think that that's hugely valuable.
Yeah, and the good thing is if you have a program where you're able to have the data as the mitigator in front of you at any time, and the homeowner can also see it, in the event you do need to have a conversation with them, it can be an intelligent conversation, because you're both looking at the data, and again, I'm going to show you some things as we move forward to prevent those nuisance calls as much as possible, because we understand at Ecosense that your job as a mitigator, and you don't want to be bothered with people calling just because it hits 4 for an hour. We want to make sure that we're not alarming people until there's some time period, preferably at least 48 hours before that has been at or above the actual level before an alarm goes. But perhaps you could have some choices as well. I'll get to that. So we've had EcoGuard around for a while. I know David was talking about EcoGuard to me when I first joined Ecosense after I retired from Marston NRPP. And but it wasn't an approved device, and there were some things that as they put it out, started to get feedback, where the professionals that were using it said, well, can you do this, or can you change that? And so over the course of that time, Ecosense has been listening and incorporating some additional things to make it more valuable and more useful. But even from the get-go, you've got a dashboard that all the data comes in and displays on the mitigators dashboard, where you can see what's going on with all the devices you have out. You can share the phone app with the client, or choose not to. That's up to you, where they can see as well. You can send out a summary report of all the activity at monthly. And you just go in and click on any of the monitors that you have out, and it will show you the data for the last 30-day period, and you can send it out to your client once a month, or however you'd like to do that. And originally they had push notifications, but they were sort of tied to an audible alarm, and we got a lot of feedback that audible alarms, like I said, are not very popular, and so we wanted to address that as we began to move forward with an approved device and making improvements.
Well, Dallas, I'll make one
Go ahead.
point on that. In one of the challenges with audible alarms and the limitations of those technologies is that oftentimes someone that purchased the home that didn't have the radon system installed has no idea what that audible alarm is. And if it goes off in the 8 hours that a family's sleeping, you can end up with a family in their pajamas on the front lawn calling the fire department because they're hearing a beeping in their house that they have no idea what it's alerting them to. And so to be able to monitor it this way safely and effectively without those types of concerns, I had heard that there were even fire departments that had been called enough times that they were going to start charging for calls when they got a false call of a radon fan stopped working. And so it's logical on a whole bunch of levels.
Yeah, good point. I'd heard a couple of those stories too. All right. So the other thing that was created even before the new iteration that we're coming out with is a QR code generator. If you go into the dashboard, that the mitigator or the professional has, there's a QR code. So if the device were to get knocked off the Wi-Fi, or the Wi-Fi got changed because of whatever reason, maybe a new occupant, then they can scan that QR code. We've got clients who are making little stickers with that QR code and putting them on the pipe. But you can also email it to them again. But if they have that, then they can download a little, I don't know, I guess the term is a little applet that will allow them to go in and reset the Wi-Fi without getting into your dashboard data, because it's set up on your account as the professional, but it keeps you from having to go back to the property to get that done. So that was actually some suggestions that we had early last year, and we got that done. And we've gotten some good feedback on how handy that comes in. So the next thing that I want to talk about is what we're doing to improve, and we're going to be coming out with this. I'll give you a little preview. We're going to be coming out with the new version of this after the first of the year, which is coming fast. So one of the comments that we got is the regular EcoCube app shows the current radon concentration up at the top. And so some mitigators were concerned that if they shared the app with their client, they were going to see that every time it hit 4 or higher and go, oh my gosh, and perhaps not understand that 1 hour reading is not anything to get concerned about. So I don't have the actual app yet, because the developers are still working on it. They hope to get it finished up here by the first of the year. But what we're doing is we're going to put up, so that will be the prominently displayed number, where when they look at their app, they can see what that is and not react to that 1 hour reading. They can still go down at the bottom and select, and see the trend charts for the, for the day, week, month, and year. But we want to concentrate on that 2-day average. I think we also got some comments, and I was talking to the developers today, that you can actually select whether it's a 2-day average or a 24-hour average. You can choose one of the two, but either way, it's not going to be the 1 hour average at the top. And so we wanted to address that concern. So as part of that, we want to make sure we're not sending out alarms for single hour readings. So the alarm is going to be a push notification if you choose to set that up. And it could be at 24 hours at or above the actionable level, or at 48 hours at or above the actionable level. I have to tell you, I'm not positive. I was trying to find out today, but the developers were tied up whether there's going to be a choice or you just select one or the other. But we wanted to make sure that we weren't, needlessly causing problems for the mitigator or the homeowner with alerts that really weren't meaningful. What do you think, Daryl?
I think that's probably the feature that adds the most value as far as what is going to be the perception of the mitigator, right? Because you do have some customers that are watchers, and they look at an old-fashioned type of radon monitoring device nonstop and get alarmed. And so by having that integrated average, they don't have to have the concern of the false alarms and the false calls and things like that. And so I think it would solve, for the most part, the concern that would prevent somebody from using this. And it seems like it's been addressed pretty effectively. And so I think that just my perception as someone that did that for many years, that would have been my number one concern. And I'm impressed with the solution.
Yeah, so you still have the hourly data to look at in the event that you need to go over something with a client, but it's not going to be prominently in their face. So that was the intent. So I'm glad for the good feedback. We've been trying to collect as much input as possible before we roll this out. Another feature that we've added is the ability to put in metadata that you don't have with a regular EcoCube. Things that will be important, like is there a mitigation system installed? Which, if you're monitoring a system, that would be yes, obviously. But perhaps somebody is installing this. We've had conversations, and we have several clients who are not mitigators who like this service because they're promoting it to their clients who test we could, but it was still only a 2-day test, and radon concentrations are fluctuating all the time. Here's a way where we can keep track of what's going on and keep you alerted and consult with you and so forth. So they're using it for that purpose. And then obviously put in the building type and the floor and the room being tested, and perhaps a delay time option, which is going to be part of this as well. And I'll get to that in just a second. So the way we're envisioning this, as soon as this comes out in January, is you could install and set up the EcoGuard monitor as soon as you activate the fan. So you could do it right there. And then once you've got it set up and running, then after 72 hours of sampling, then you can go into your dashboard, and initially rather, it's going to be a button on the dashboard. We'll be refining that, as we go through the first quarter, but initially it will be a button where you select it, and then we will prepare a 48-hour clearance test report. So it will delay the 24 hours, and then you'd have the 48 hours of data that you could then forward to your client to show that the system, is working at that point. And then you continue to monitor the system because you're going to leave it there. And then with 2 clicks, one to pull it up and one to email it, you could email monthly summary reports as well. Again, you can share the app with the client or not. That's up to you. But we wanted to, it just didn't make sense to me that if you're going to do this, why do you have to take one monitor out to do the short-term clearance test and go pick it up and then install this when it could do both? So that's the way we've set this up. I'm curious what you think about that, Daryl.
I find that really interesting, and I think it's a good idea. One, because if it's sufficient for the client, it's letting them know that the system's effective. But even, equally important, if it's for a real estate transaction and they're going to bring in a professional tester afterwards, they're assured, or you have the confidence that your system's working, and they're not going to spend the money to test and still have elevated levels, and they'd be unhappy that you have to make changes and then them come in and test again. And so when you have the level of confidence after this is installed and it's working, they can feel free to go ahead and independently test it, and they're going to get the value for their test without wasting when some adjustments need to be made to the system.
Good point. Yeah, and something I didn't share with you, in addition to getting this device certified, Ecosense got approved as a lab. So in this program, we'll be operating as the lab, like the charcoal lab. So we're going to view the data. We've got some AI and computer algorithms that'll look at data streams to see if there's anything, any anomalies that might indicate the monitor malfunctioned or there was some weird event. And if that happens, then we'll flag it and take care of it. So I wanted to let you know that as well. So then the next part of the equation is, well, if it's an approved device, what about calibration? Well, my point on this slide is, if you're monitoring a mitigation system, then you're not doing a test to determine whether the house should be mitigated or not. That was already done. The intent here is to monitor the system where you, as the mitigator, can stand behind your work It's a quality assurance type of feature. It gives confidence to your client. And again, if there is an alert, then there's going to be um, an investigation and a conversation to see, well, what's going on. And so it's not like there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction of oh, we need to go do something just because of that. It's to help protect your clients where they can have peace of mind, which is why we're finding so many, particularly younger and maybe a little more affluent homeowners are wanting to pay for. So the way we're approaching this is every 2 years, when it's time to do that 2-year test, that you, as part of your program, your monitoring agreement and service agreement, you could come back out to the property and either cross-check it with a recently calibrated device of some sort, replace the monitor with a new EcoGuard device, or replace the monitor with another one that's been returned and recalibrated. So we're going to be, we're already making plans to have a calibration center of our own at Ecosense by sometime next year. We're hoping maybe by third quarter. And so we can recalibrate, and we'll have those available as well. Daryl?
Yeah, I mean, I really like that idea, and I like tying it into, I think the natural progression for our industry is for radon professionals to have revenue streams for maintenance agreements and added value, and not to be a one-time relationship with their customers, but to have an ongoing relationship. Just like your alarm company, if you have a security system in your home, it's an ongoing relationship, and radon is something serious enough that I think people would be very receptive to the idea that this shouldn't be one and done, that you continue to ensure that this works, and that I have an ongoing relationship with you. And I don't think that there would be a whole lot of pushback in, having a pay for service where this is tied into your relationship to that homeowner and to the system that's installed in their house.
Okay, so I have a slide that didn't show up. Oh, all right. So let me go back to this. So what if you could routinely add monitoring to your OM&M plan and get paid extra for it? So that's the gist of what I'm talking about tonight, and why I'm glad Daryl's here to offer his feedback and input. So let me share with you what we're doing. These new NRPP-approved EcoGuard units with the new features I've been talking about will be available to ship before January 26th. I'm hoping it's sooner than that, but certainly by then. So for orders of less than 20 units, then the price on those is $129 each. There is a $399 per month data service charge, but only on activated units. So let's say you bought 20 of them and you only had the first 2 out. You're not getting charged anything for the ones that are not activated. If somebody decides, well, I want to cancel my service at some point and it's no longer activated, then you don't get charged for it. So it's only for activated units. If you're interested in bulk orders, which we've got people already that are been using the older units, that may buy them 20 at a time or 50 at a time, a couple that are doing it 100 at a time. So we can give you a quote for bulk orders. If you'll email David, then he can take care of a pre-order if you'd like to get some of those that are first coming in there in January. Because we're really proud that Daryl is working with us to get the word out on all of this. If you mention Festa when you call him, then you can save $5 on each device on an order of 10 or more, and we'll keep that on until Christmas morning. How's that? And then finally, I want to put this up, and Daryl, you've got every one of our devices just about up on your website, and I know you've got a loyal following that does business with you all the time, mitigators that buy your fans over and over again. So we think, I'd like to get your feedback on it, that this is a great time to think about a practical gift for Christmas. So I'm
It,
sure you've
it,
got people in your family that know you do radon work, and maybe they need an EcoCube or a Radon Eye or an EcoBlue. Or maybe your business is in need of a Radon Eye Pro or an Eco Tracker. We've got a promo code there where you can get 10% off the price. Daryl?
So I don't know if I'm veering off a little bit, but there's three really important points I want to make about the EcoGuard that struck me as we were talking. The first is that you know, I think it's really clear to demonstrate to somebody that their radon system is working when it's installed. And then if there's any point where it's not working, to know that. I can't tell you how often I encounter somebody that's selling their home that has a radon system in it, and it comes up quite elevated. And they wonder, was it always high? Has my family been living like this for the past 14 years? I don't recall what it was. And there's no assurances you can provide that person. And so with this, I would sell the value in that: one, it assures you that the work is effective, and two, it assures you that it continues to be effective. So you're not encountering some point in time where you have no idea what your family's exposure has been. So I think that's really important. The second thing that's important is if somebody makes a change to their home without even considering it might affect the radon system, in addition to the home, a change in the HVAC system, even change in the geography in the area, the installation of a wood burning stove, it could provide an opportunity for the mitigator to go and do work and address the change to ensure that their system continues to work. They don't have any culpability, and it's not their responsibility that addition wasn't there when they installed the system, but it allows them to ensure that the house is still safe. Final point, and I think it's an important one, is that one of the great revenue streams for radon professionals are fan replacements. And I'm of the belief that the radon professional should be the one to change out the radon fan. And this is the best assurance you can have that when that fan goes bad, you're the first point of contact to inform them, and you're the one to go change it out. It's not going to be another mitigation company. It's not going to be their plumber or AC guy or electrician that goes to Menards or Home Depot or Lowe's and buys one. And so you're preserving that revenue stream that as you grow your business over many years, it can be substantial. When those fans reach the end of their serviceable lives, we want to ensure that you're the one to go and change them. And by monitoring it and having the ability to call somebody and say, just want to let you know, as part of your monitoring system, it appears there's been a failure with your fan. It could be something simple, or it could mean it meant the end of its serviceable life. I'd like to make an appointment to come out and have a service call and evaluate and see if one is something simple and your fan's still functioning, or if you need a replacement. And I think it's a great way to preserve that revenue stream, as well as provide that service for your customers. And so those are my 3 points.
Wow, those are three good points. See, that's why I need Daryl on these webinars. Now, the I learned a long time ago that people, one of the key things of selling is people buy from those they know, like, and trust. And I know Daryl kind of adheres to that code as well. And so if you're a mitigator and you're just kind of one and done, then you don't have the opportunity to build a relationship with your client, perhaps over the longer period. And if you really take care of them, and for the kinds of things that Daryl just mentioned, then they're going to give you testimonials to put on your website. They're going to be happy to share your business with their friends and neighbors. You're going to be their guy or their gal that takes care of their radon concerns, and I think that's a good way to do business. Those are points that I'm going to have to get on some slides, Daryl. So I'll talk to you after this to make sure that we put those together, because I'll give you an example. In my house, I live in a townhome condominium, and I've been at this a long time. I tested this place. I've been here for 25 years, and I've tested this place for radon so many times I can't count. But it recently, about a year ago, I tested and noticed that I was getting some elevated levels in my lower level, and I started watching it And yeah, it's changed. And I was trying to figure out, well, what happened? And then it dawned on me, oh, I changed out my heating and air conditioning system. It's
Right.
completely different than for all the years. It's all brand new. So now, I had to go look and kind of see what they did. I didn't pay a lot of attention at the time, and I've already discovered a couple of things I'm going to have to fix. So it's those sorts of things do make a difference, and I'm sure the mitigators on the call on the webinar tonight are aware of that.
Well, radon is a weighty issue, right? It can cause somebody to get cancer. And I think it's logical and people would understand the importance and value of continuing to monitor that it's working and it's functioning. And I think a lot of people that maybe haven't understood how it's always been done, this would seem very normal to them, right? These homeowners, this is most likely their first experience with radon. And so you have the opportunity to tell them the way that it should be done, because they don't have the history and the whole understanding of that this is new technology. They think that makes sense. It's dangerous. You put a system in, you're going to monitor to make sure it continues to work. And so I don't think it's a particularly challenging sell to make, with the understanding that they're looking to you as the expert and what should be done and what's normal, and you can make this their normal.
Wow. Well said. All right, so I we spent about 45 minutes, and we have David, who is with Ecosense and at our office in San Jose, and he's been monitoring the chat and Q&A. So David, why don't you show your face and let me know if we got any questions or anything we need to bring up before we conclude tonight.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of questions. If anybody has any questions now, please put them in the chat. In the meantime, I think we have a couple that we got beforehand. The first one was what are some of the ways that we can sell this other than the OM&M, right? What are some ways we can get people to sign up to this kind of program?
Daryl, I'll let you go first.
So again, I don't think that this should be necessarily viewed as a requirement or mandatory. I think it's just sensical, right? It makes sense for a business, one, to add value, two, to set themselves apart, and three, to protect the people. I mean, I believe that the overwhelming majority of us do this because we care and we want people to be safe. And I know that most of the mitigators I talk to want to know if their system isn't working and want to know if there's a problem that should be addressed. And so I just think that should be a natural part of every radon system. And I have to say, I'm so impressed. I think technology-wise, our industry has experienced more in the past 3 or 4 years with these types of devices that can revolutionize a business that has really been pretty stagnant over. I mean, radon really hasn't evolved a whole lot in the past 30 or 40 years. Systems are very effective and they do what they do. But this kind of takes it to the new level. And as I was saying at the end, gives us the opportunity to re-educate and represent how it is done and how it should be done as far as an ongoing monitoring partnership and relationship with the homeowners.
Yeah, we get a lot of traffic on our customer support and a lot of comments for questions from consumers and comments. And I was getting off a plane. I may have told this story last time, but I was getting off a plane recently, and I got a text just as I was getting off, and it was from someone I didn't know in Utah, who told me that he had stage 4 lung cancer, and he wanted to let our company know how much he appreciated the EcoCube devices, and that he's on a mission to make sure everybody knows about them in his community. And so we were actually talking with him today, some of the outreach things, and he's, he was at the cancer, what is it, Huntsman Cancer Center, while he was on the call with us. So he's going through a lot, but because he's and you've probably talked to others, I'm sure, You know, it's a serious thing when you realize, wow, if I'd have known, And so the last thing we want, in my opinion, is it's one thing, it's bad enough when somebody just didn't know enough to test or didn't pay any attention and they never tested their home. It's something else when they actually did the right thing and tested and had a mitigator come out and fix it. And then maybe it didn't work because, you know, or it quit working at some point and they had no clue.
Yeah, I was saying the exact same point. I mean, it's tragic when somebody gets radon-induced lung cancer. It'd be exponentially more tragic if they had a mitigation system and ended up getting lung cancer. And so, you know, that alone should be compelling both to the mitigator and to their potential clients that would understand that. I mean, when they understand why that mitigator is there to help them and the lengths that they're going to go to ensure their family's protection long term, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. So I guess to answer the question, I would just, you know, suggest talking to your clients, you know, build a little rapport and talk to them. And, you know, some people are not going to do it, and that's okay. But those who decide that they'd like to have the service, you know, it gives you an opportunity to stay in touch with them and them an opportunity to really see what's going on and thank you for the service that you provide. All right,
Awesome.
David, what's next?
Great answer, guys. So this next question is from our good friend Glenn Steers. He asked, would the mitigator pay the monthly cloud fee or pass it along to the customer?
Good question. I guess that's a business model decision. The mitigator would pay it and then they could pass that on with a markup. I know a number of mitigators that I've spoken with that are doing this already are sort of putting the price of the unit, you know, onto their mitigation quote, you know, either listing it out or not, and then they give a you know, per month or a per year, depending on, you know, what's easier and how you'd like to market it. We certainly don't have a specific formula. I think it depends on how you would like to do business, but Daryl may be a better one to answer that question.
So again, my thought naturally was that this is a value added service that you sell to them, and that, you know, for as economical as it is, and I think there's obviously room for it to be a revenue stream for the mitigator, and that should be a natural approach to it. And I think the overwhelming majority of homeowners would certainly be willing to take on that small charge every month for the protection it's offering. And so I think the mitigator would definitely pass it on and make a margin on it for the effort and the involvement that they continue to have with their clients.
Okay, great.
We got another minute or two.
Great. So then I guess the last question in that same vein is, like, how much would you charge? Because it looks like the, you know, $4 per month times 12 plus the unit price is about 177. You know, any ideas on what kind of pricing point? If not, you know, obviously people have to come up with their own, right? But you know, for any ideas and stuff like that.
I hate personally to talk about what the price should be. I do think that you know, particularly if you're looking at 2 years before you would even, you know, have to go back out to the house, you know, if you're going to do the every 2 year, you know, retest as part of your plan, then, you know, for that second year, your margin is going to be better. If you can, I think it would depend on whether you're doing this as part of a mitigation, which is primarily what we've been talking about, part of a mitigation service and monitoring agreement, or whether you're doing it as a, you know, for like a home inspector that's providing it as a service beyond just that test that they did, you know, for a couple of days when they purchased the home. I don't know, Daryl, what are your thoughts?
So I mean, I think if I was implementing this into my business, I would certainly add a margin to the actual device, not a substantial one, but certainly a margin, and then, you know, an ongoing maintenance fee of $9.95 a month or something like that seems to be more than reasonable for something like this. But the thing I'll say is, what we learned in this industry is every market's different, right? You know, what they get for a mitigation in Minnesota could be dramatically different than what they get for a mitigation in Ohio. And so I think they're going to have to test their markets, and they're going to have to feel their way through it based on, you know, what their personal experiences are. I think the bottom line is that for the way that Ecosense has this structured for the cost of the device and the monthly maintenance, it's certainly a profit center regardless. It's just going to be how much of a profit center it's going to be. And as you accumulate more and more of these out there, clearly the benefits are going to increase exponentially.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is if you can get this out and it would you know, a large majority of your systems, then it really starts to add up. Yeah, you made a good point about it's different in Minnesota than it is in perhaps Western Pennsylvania, but it's also, you know, it could be the neighborhoods that you typically service. I mean, if you've got a really affluent clientele, then you know, looking at costs are, you know, not such of a heartache for them. You know, they'll pay for the peace of mind because you know, it's not an issue, and if a lot of your clientele is not that affluent, then perhaps you can find another way to structure it. All right,
Great.
David.
Okay. It looks like that's all the questions. So you guys can take it away, close it up however you'd like. But there doesn't seem to be any more questions.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you very much for joining us, and Daryl, thank you for allowing us to work with you and access to your followers and customers. I'll hand it over to you to close this out.
Yeah, so I would finish with one. It was a pleasure. I really do like the product a lot. I think it should be a part, whether it ends up being a part of the bulk of your systems or not. I think if people make the right choice, it should be. Another thing that you know, we didn't really discuss is there are going to be mitigators that feel strongly they're going to make this a part of all theirs. But I also know that a lot of consumers like choice, right? And so you can propose a system without the monitoring, and then you could say we also have you know, a plus program or a gold standard program where we will come in and continue to monitor this for you for this cost added in. And so you're giving them the choice. And I think you probably will find a lot of them select or elect to go with that. And so if you're not comfortable building it in price wise to all of your systems, I think offering it as a service or a second proposal is a great idea. And the other thing that does for you psychologically is, instead of making it a choice between you and another mitigation professional, perhaps it's a choice between the two options that you offer them.
Very good.
Great point.
All right. Well, thanks again. And keep an eye on your email and our website, because we'll have another webinar just as soon as we come up with a topic and announce it. David's probably already got it ready for me. All right. All right. Good night, everybody.
It was
All right,
fun.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.